Hey gang, Professor Feezer here, and on today's episode of Code with Feezer, we're going to check out what it takes to make a pull request on GitHub. Specifically, we're going to work through an Ansible project that was published by DellEMC VXRail. Let me show you what I mean. If you're familiar with Ansible, it is an abstraction of Python that allows for automating state, configuring state to be placed on remote systems, remote targets. So we write code, we get a configured system. If you wanted to automate a VXRail, that's not native to Ansible, but DellEMC's published a kind of library. It's called a collection. It's a package distribution system for Ansible. It's an expansion pack, if you will. And if you look here, you can actually get it. Getting it's quite easy. Linking to it, if we click over here, we see repo. This connects us to the repository. And I was teaching a Ansible class today, and my students were asking about this. We were exploring it together. And I went into docs, and I went into samples, and we went into the first one, add satellite node. And when we went in here, we saw an example playbook. So a playbook is the unit that Ansible wants to run. Your configuration is called a playbook. You also provide it an inventory, which is your list of targets. Together they reach out and configure that system or systems for you. In any event, we were reviewing this, and I said, whoa, gang, I'd love to say that this is ready to go, but it's not. Maybe at the time this was written, it worked. But that line I highlighted there, line 30, that should be written as a thing called a fully qualified collection name, an FQCN. Without that, Ansible isn't going to be able to find this particular, it's actually a Python script. The fully qualified collection name is just two folders. It's ultimately all these scripts live in folders, and over the last few years, Ansible's pushed this idea that we have so many Python scripts that you have to tell us where to look. So, the problem here is it's not just this playbook that is lacking. If we go back to samples and I click on the next one, I go, oh my, that one's lacking too. And suffice to say, Dell has a tremendous amount of work here in examples. Some of them updated 4 months ago, 2 years ago, last week. The problem is none of them are going to work without qualifying with a fully qualified collection name. So how do we fix that? Opening an issue probably isn't the way. Unless the plan is to open an issue and maybe fix it ourselves. Opening an issue would prompt discussion. Hey, we think this needs fixed. We're willing to fix it. Maybe before we spend the time to fix it. That said, I teach a lot of Ansible classes for Dell. And I know I'm correct on this, and I know they'd be appreciative of fixing this. So let's just fix it for them without any discussion. To do that, I start by hopping out to the root repository. I next click this button that says fork. This is going to copy their code into my account. This takes just a minute, but when it's done, I have their code. Now, there are pointers back to them. You can see up top, I forked it from them. The idea here is I can now work on this and fix it. And when I'm done, I can prompt them with a thing called a pull request, which is effectively, hey gang, can you consider pulling this code and making it part of your project? They could reject it, but I don't think they will. To fix this, at least in GitHub, is pretty easy. We just go back to, in this case, documentation, into samples where we saw the problem, add satellite node, and right there the issue is. To know what we're supposed to actually, what the FQCN actually is would be, there's a couple ways to get it, but that right there, DellEMC VXRail. The first piece, DellEMC, is going to be a folder. It's called the namespace. The next piece, VXRail, is another folder. It's called the collection. And if I run that command, Ansible effectively is going to go into a special directory it knows to search in. It's going to create DellEMC folder. It's going to create VXRail folder. And then copy this entire repo into it. This repo includes, by the way, all of these Python scripts. In another folder, there is actually this Python script. To fix this example, because the idea is they want you to be able to run this and have it work, I can hit the little pencil, edit this file, and it's as simple as Control-V dot. I'm simply making that say DellEMC.VXRail dot, followed by the name that was already there. Async underscore status, which is this line here, is actually in the Ansible.built-in library, along with debug. Technically, we don't need to include that fix. Ansible will find items in the standard library, but it will not find things much further outside of the standard library. Maybe you get lucky with like an Ansible.Windows. It might consider that sort of library part of the search space, but in all cases, you're really supposed to explain where these scripts are. So we fixed it. All we got to do is hit commit changes, and it says, well, what's the reason for doing this? Optional update, that's fine if we wanted to be explicit on what we did. Added fully qualified collection names to example. Commit directly to the master branch, commit changes. Now that's on our account. We've made that fix. Dell doesn't know about that yet. Before I would push this to Dell, I probably want to do all the other fixes as well. So I'm going to do that a while. I'm going to just hop through these examples and fix them up. And then when we come back, I will show you actually how to push our changes back to Dell's account and ask them if they don't want to pull this in and make it part of their project. Okay, so we went ahead and fixed all of these example playbooks. If we click on any one of these playbooks, we'll actually see here that DellEMC VXRail dot has been prefaced to DellEMC VXRail certificate, the actual name of the script, which is how it's supposed to look. So now it comes time to take our work and push it back to Dell, and that's actually very easy to do. I'm 100 commits ahead of where they are. So what I want to do is actually contribute, and I can open a pull request. This is actually going to ask them to examine my work and what I write up about why I think it's a good PR, and hopefully they go ahead and accept it. These are all my changes. Honestly, I should have used something like regex and done a single change, but it took like 20 minutes. I just went through them all one by one and fixed them. Looks good. They're just all the commits there. I can create the pull request. And now there's a reason I got to type up as to why I think the pull request is valid. All right, so there's my summary. All of the example playbooks within docs example or samples were lacking the fully qualified collection names. At this time, Ansible suggests using an FQCM with every module as part of best practice. Furthermore, if it's not found in the module itself or under a collections heading, task cannot be found and the playbook will fail. So there is an alternative. You can up at the top put the word collections and just put the namespace and the collection there. But Ansible's recently said don't do that. We want to move away from that. All right, so I just hit create pull request. That's now open. It's one of a couple other pull requests that are out there. You can see there RZ Feezer has suggested they pull that in. So our work is done. Thank you so much for watching this video. We'll see you next time where we'll explore something other than a pull request here on Code with Feezer.